Welcome in to the Sports Buzz Podcast, a service of WKYT TV. Remember, you can get all these podcasts wherever you get your podcasts at iTunes, Audio Boom, SoundCloud. We're over here at the UK Training Center getting ready for the start of football season. And really just I'm tickled that Kash Daniel is here with us and is taking some time. People, I get this all the time, and you guys are always working. People say, oh, it's the off season. What are you doing? There's never an off season for you, is there?
No, there is. There's no such thing as an off season. What we do to compete at this level, it requires 365 days, year round.
Sure. Talk about what it is that you do. I mean, I know coaches want you in certain places during the summer and everything, but I mean, if you want to be the kind of player that you have become and still want to be, it's on you in terms of making sure you're in, getting the work in, and all that stuff, right?
Absolutely. At the end of the day, it all falls on what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. And Coach Stoops and Jacob Tammy actually was the one who introduced this saying to us when he came and talked to us last summer. He talked about being a pro and what that actually meant. And I think it really hit home, with a bunch of guys, especially guys last year that were obviously NFL prospects that they're getting ready to go to the league and everything like that. But also, the guys that are just here, maybe freshmen, sophomores, or juniors, and it really made an impact on me. He said, you're responsible for your own outcome. You're personally responsible for your own outcome. That's what he described as being a pro, as PRO, personally responsible for your own outcome. And Coach Stoops, he grabbed onto that, and thankfully, Jacob didn't trademark it or anything, so we're allowed to use it.
But so, you can do it now, right?
Coach Stoops uses it pretty frequently, and it's a message. It's simple, but it gets the message across. So to maintain, what you want to be, the player you want to become, and also the person you want to become, really comes with hard work as well. And the way you put that in is staying grinding, and obviously. I would say don't take any days off, but obviously you got to have your rest days. But
right,
if you want to be successful, and get to that next level, obviously there's somebody, and my dad always tell me this, and I'm very thankful that he was always like this, with me. He said there's always some kid out there that's just as equally, if not better than you, that's working just as hard, if not harder than you are. So I'm almost like scared that somebody's outworking me.
I mean seriously, it's like now. People know who you are, not only because of your play, but because of your personality and things like that. Mm-hmm. And there's some dude at some SEC school or some non-conference school that is putting his whole summer around, I'm going to show Kash Daniel what this is all about.
Absolutely. I mean, there's probably some running backs, quarterbacks, offensive linemen, tight ends that are saying the same thing. And I know that, and I think about stuff like that, and I know that not only are they thinking about me, but they're thinking about this team, and they're thinking about, they were pretty upset, and I imagine that some of these teams are pretty upset. We came in and beat them last year, and so there's not going to be any good feelings toward anybody we play this year because of what we did the season before, but so. I imagine that there's a lot of people out there that's gunning for us, and we got to be prepared to take the battle and hit them right back.
Now, I've never been out in a boat fishing with you and everything, but just what I see and everything. I mean, you're not a guy that seems to me that would be motivated by fear. I mean, I see you as a guy that's I hate to use my southern roots here, but not afraid of nothing or nobody.
Right. Fear. It's a four-letter word, but it's a big word if you think about it. Not just in football, but out in life in general. And I look at fear almost as like an illness or a sickness that it's only up to you to get rid of. And a lot of people really don't know this, but before I was doing this the way I do it. There were some times where I was scared, to play football.
Come on.
I ain't kidding. I mean, I would, because I was always the bigger kid in my class.
Right.
So I always played up.
Right.
I always played against kids that were 2-3 years older than me. And so I was out there. I remember I was in 4th grade, and I played a 7th grade game. And,
oh my gosh.
And the kid I was like 5'2", 5'3" maybe. And this kid was like 6'1", long hair, had a mustache, and my granddad was like, "Well, he probably drove the bus to the game," and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, but at the same time, I used that fear as a kid, to turn into something of a fear of failing almost, not a fear of people, but a fear of failing. And once I got over that hump, as a little kid, it was over with at that point from the standpoint of being afraid on the football field, or really afraid of anything, outside of football, other than some personal issues,
sure,
like that. But just fear in general, it drives people, and I'm one of those people that I'm afraid that somebody's outworking me, and I don't want to be outworked. I'm afraid that somebody's studying their playbook harder than I am. I'm afraid that somebody's out doing extra drills more than I am, but I'm cautious about it. I'm not outworking myself to where, I'm not getting any recovery and I'm only hurting myself. I get my recovery. It's just as important as your training. But so yeah, I drive and I thrive off fear.
Okay, so now you've opened a door up about that in terms of the fear and everything. Okay, so let's say it's still there. I mean, like, if I saw you, I'm thinking if I see 10 guys in a line, in about 2 seconds, you're the guy that I know I immediately do not want to mess with. Now, is that part of the persona that you kind of project out there, that is another weapon you've got in the holster against fear? That's a pretty deep question.
I mean, I believe that if you ask, any, especially defensive players, and I go back to my favorite defensive player of all time was Brian Dawkins, and he was known as Weapon X. Mm-hmm. And he actually had 2 lockers. He had Brian Dawkins' locker, and then he had Weapon X's locker. And he would always talk about, and I've watched this one ESPN cut up that's like 9 minutes long on YouTube ever since I was in 6th grade. I've watched the Weapon X tribute highlight video when he was with the Eagles 1,000 times. There's a music video that who's that rapper? He was in this shark movie. I can't remember.
Asking
LL Cool J.
Asking the wrong guy about a rapper.
There's a song about LL Cool J that he did. It's called "It's Time for War" or something like that. And I'd always listen to that before a football game. It was nothing but Brian Dawkins highlights and him just talking. And I watched the football life on him, and it's scary of how, the way he thinks, and that's the way kind of like how I think about going about things, is that when he created that alter ego, that Weapon X, is that, that nothing can stop him. That he's just, this becomes almost not human. That he's just a completely different being at times. And the way he came out of the tunnel, that he was like, a caged animal. And he just came out with so much, ferocious energy and just passion, and it's maintained that the entire game, and that's how he played that. He's a perfect example of, you can be a really good man off the field, but he's a really good, quiet Christian man off the field.
Right.
Listening to him talk, and he doesn't curse on the field, but when he's on that field, he's going to act like a maniac, and he's going to hit somebody real hard. And I think that going into that mode, if you got that zone you can go into, there's a lot of positive that can come out of that. And that's
sure.
what I think that I created a persona for me to where, when I'm here and it's time to go to work, I flip that switch, and it's time to go to work. And I love being here. I feed off my teammates. I love being with my teammates, and I told them the other day, I was like, this the best part of my day is out there, busting my tail with y'all, even though we're out there dying.
Sure.
Coach Ed's out there, doing his job of, getting us in good shape.
Right.
That's the most fun I have, during my day, is going out there and feeding off my teammates' energy, building each other up, getting fired up, when things are tough, and pushing through that stuff. It's just, and you hear about a lot of guys talk about this a lot, is that, it's when they look back like on championship teams, they look back at the journey, not so much the game.
Yep.
And a part of that, is with summer workouts and pushing through these tough workouts with each other, because it's hot. It's, you're running, 12 gas or 12 hills when, you should have been done 2 reps ago.
Right.
That's what your body's telling you anyways, but you just push through each other. And, and when you do that, that builds a lot of camaraderie, and it builds a lot of team chemistry that you could take into training camp, build that within not only just the defensive side of the ball, but the offensive side of the ball, special teams, get everybody, on one movement as a team, set for one goal. And that's a recipe, for success.
Sure. When you go through all of that stuff and you're doing that and you got that persona, okay, so you're trying to overcome, you've got to have somebody that you're out working. Sometimes when you're trying to put yourself in an underdog role like that, guys aren't necessarily also good leaders. How is it that you have been able to do both?
The way I look at it is that I'm very fortunate to be where I'm at. And I was actually talking about this with my dad today, and I'm not going to get into it, but I saw where, ESPN had us, and I'm not going to talk about, projections. I know everybody's already had their fun with that, what I said earlier,
but you've already seen the bulletin board material.
Yeah, I've already seen where we have a 1% chance to win the East. And some dude had us number 6 in the SEC East above Vandy. And, and my dad was sitting there talking about it, and we were talking about it. I was like, 1%? I was like, you kidding me? And he was like, well, think about it, man. He said, that's been your whole life. And he said, you had a 1% chance of making it out of Eastern Kentucky. You had a 1% chance of getting a full ride scholarship to where you're at. You had a 1% chance of doing everything you're doing right now. When you got to college, you had a 1% chance of becoming a starter. You had a 1% chance of doing everything. So he told me to use that, and I was like, wow, you really put that in perspective. So, using that persona and to get guys, when they see that, it's they think it's pretty entertaining, seeing me get fired up and stuff. but also, I think they know me on a personal level, because I try to get to know my teammates on not just on a football level, but on a personal level, because not everybody's the same. Not everybody came from the same background. Not everybody came from the same upbringing and stuff like that. So you got to go your different ways about guys, and you got to get to know them, what they like, what they don't like, how they react to this, how they react to that. What's their favorite teams, this and that. Just so you can have that small talk engage.
Sure.
To build up a camaraderie as friends in the locker room, to say, okay, if this guy's, he's good to me, off the field, and he's busting his butt out there on the field, and we see him, doing this and that, and then I think that ultimately becomes hey, maybe, this is a guy that, we believe in, and, it can take us to where we want to be.
Those dang guys, I mean, I know you're still getting it with the young guys, but the guys who are here, they've shown it. I mean,
absolutely.
Dudes will absolutely go to war with you. That has to be an incredible feeling, that knowing no matter what's going on, what the score is, whether you're right or wrong, dudes are going to have your back because it's your back.
It goes further than that. It even goes off the field. I know, everybody knows that on Saturdays or whenever we play, that I'm going to give everything that I have that's in my spirit, mind, and body on that football field, for those guys next to me and those guys on the sideline, for my coaches and everybody involved. And with me, being, and I really don't think about this a lot, but I think deep down, and it's kind of like a self-conscious thing, that I think that with me being from Kentucky, with me being at my home state school, that kind of drives me even more, to push to be where I'm at, to try to get guys to come with me and bring guys up, because this means a lot to me. This is my state. This is my school. And this is every little kid's dream in the state of Kentucky. Unless they're a red team fan, then is to play at the University of Kentucky. If they're, if they love sports.
Right.
And so for me to be able to do this, first of all, is just, like I said, it's a blessing, and it's an honor to be here. So I take that personal, to where I'm not going to take this for granted. And to where, because I know that this stuff, it can be over like that. And I want to be able to bring guys with me, so whenever I'm gone, hopefully, they grab something from me that they can take on and help Coach Stoops, build this program even further. That's what I want to take away from it, honestly.
Sure.
Is that when I leave this place, is that I want to leave it in a better place than when I found it. And I want to leave it in the hands of good people and good guys that I know that I can trust, that I know that will take this program to where it wants to be. My motivation always comes simple to the fact that I do this for myself, I do this for my state, I do this for my family, and I do this for every kid that wishes he could do this and be in my shoes.
Sure.
I do this for kids that, that had the talent, but, they messed up, in life, or something happened. Maybe they didn't have the grades, maybe they didn't have to do this. For the people that would kill to be in my shoes.
Mm-hmm.
That's my motivation. For little kids that would kill to be in my shoes. For some kids that, unfortunately, due to, some circumstances, will never be able to play the game of football. That's my motivation. That's why I get up every morning. That's why I kill myself to be the best. That's why I paranoid myself about being out work. That's why I do extra stuff. That's why I'm always in the film room. That's why I'm always in the weight room. That's why I'm always on the practice field. I'm always getting treatment, always doing extra rehab, doing stuff like that just to make sure I can be the best that I can be. So come on Saturday, I can go out there and perform at the level that Coach Stoops and Coach Summerall has prepared me to be.
Sure. Where did the name Kash come from?
That's a question you have to ask for my mom and dad. I've heard different.
What are some of the stories?
I've heard Cassius Clay. My mom said that my cousin Scott was supposed to be named Cash, and then she didn't use it, and so my mom liked it, so she used it. That sounds more reasonable. That sounds more realistic.
My folks are from Eastern Kentucky. I was thinking Cash's Big Bargain Barn in South Lebanon, Ohio. No.
And then I think my dad keeps trying to tell me there was some there's some famous ancient Mexican king or something that was named King Cassius or something like that.
There you go.
I'm not sure.
And you're not buying any of it?
I mean, I would sit there and say, yeah, it's a cool name. You all spelled it different, but it's all good.
Is it the full name?
No, it's just Cash.
It's just Cash.
Mm-hmm.
I know you don't want to think about your football career being over, but I mean, you could probably make a lot of money in professional wrestling. Have you done any research on this yet, or anything, or thought about that? Or
I mean, it's not a thing you really got to do research on, but I mean, it's obviously, yeah. I mean, with the persona that I say on the field, obviously there's a lot of. That's just raw emotion, and like I said, that's my alter ego. That's where I go to.
But Cash, it's really good. I mean, you're too young to remember this, but the Macho Man, Randy Savage, used to come out to the TV station every Friday morning and edit his show, and he'd come up the steps every Friday morning and go, "Hey Dave, anybody using the Edit Bay?" And the dude was just it reminds me so much of you, because he could get that persona going, and then when we saw him out on the road, even after he became big. There were people like in production jobs at the station, people that didn't have big jobs, but it helped him along the way. And he always asked about those people. Mm-hmm. He always asked about those people. And you strike me as that same kind of guy.
Yeah, I mean, Macho Man was obviously, one of the greats. And, with only not his personality, in the ring, but outside the ring, was spectacular.
So your favorite? That's old school.
That's. I mean, he's up there, but I think everybody know who my favorite is. But Stone Cold Steve Austin.
And when did you get this connection with Stone Cold?
I mean, I was just ever since I was a kid. Waking up on Saturday mornings and seeing replays of it from the night before and. Watching Monday Night Raw, but that was like when wrestling was like wrestling.
Real wrestling, like country music was country music.
Yeah, that's like when that's when your parents had to like make sure you weren't watching wrestling. Hashtag make wrestling fun again.
It was like I think it was like last week was like the 20th or 25th anniversary of Hell in a Cell, and I went back to rewatch a documentary on that, and apparently Vince McMahon goes in the locker room after the match and says to Mankind, "I'm glad you're okay, but I never want to see that again."
Oh, when Taker threw him off the top of the cage, yeah, that was
off the top of the cage and through the cage.
And through the cage and through the mat.
Yes,
he went through the ring too. Mick Foley, man, I'm telling you, that dude right there is the toughest SOB alive. Has to be. Just to see what his body has went through and him to be able to still somehow walk.
They had an interview with The Undertaker, and he said he thought he saw a snot bubble under his nose, and it was one of his upper teeth that had gone through his lip. Can you imagine?
I bet the WWE's got a really good waiver to sign with that.
The lawyers are making all the money, right?
Oh yeah, that's God, that'd be scary.
Oh boy. Listen, I've got to ask about the hair. It's the first time I've seen it.
Oh yeah.
I'm not hating. I just wish I could do it, but it's
getting there, man. It's getting long.
How far are you trying to get, or will you have to cut it before camp opens?
No, I'm not.
Optional?
Cutting it.
You're not cutting it?
No, I'm not cutting it. I made a bet with Logan Stenberg in November of my sophomore year. I think it was November 12th. And because me and him have had this thing with hair where, we try to grow ours out and we get to that awkward stage and we cut it and we're like, all right, I'm not cutting mine for real. And I bet Logan that I wouldn't cut it for a year. And I was like, well, I'm already at a year. I might as well just keep going. So, I mean, I kind of like it. I can put it up in this little half bun.
It's not a full bun. It's like a bunette.
Yeah, it's very Jon Snowish, if you want to. So that's what I'm going for.
And so you're just going to go with, now,
Although no, I do in no shape, form, or fashion look anywhere like Kit Harington, but, But I think I could act like it.
There's no question you could. But you're going to go with it for as long as...
Messed up, man. He should have married that woman.
I know. That's the thing about, like, if you go into broadcasting, which you'd be really good at too, it's always good to make and easier to make decisions about everybody else's life than it is your own when you're going through it, right?
It'd be so sad, man. He had to stab his wife right there. He had to stab his wife.
Wow. A couple of more things. Everybody knows about your love of fishing. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is just so out of persona for you. Is that why you like it? I would have fashioned you as being a hunter instead of a fisher.
I mean, I hunt too. I'm not a big deer hunter like I used to be when I was a kid because that's what you'd always see on TV.
All you do is sit.
Yeah, and you just sit there and stuff. So I would my dad. He squirrel hunted. I think that's about all he did. But he was the bass fisherman. And
yeah.
I'm so glad he was able to introduce me to that and teach me it. But I like to turkey hunt, man. Turkey hunt's probably one of my favorite things to do. That, duck hunting, and
I've never been duck hunting. Always wanted to go. Not too many places go around here.
It's the easiest thing in the world. You sit there in a duck blind.
Mm-hmm.
Have a guy bring a propane heater, skillet, fry up some eggs, sit there and play with duck calls, and then just say, "Here they come!" Pull up and shoot them. Have the dog go out and get them.
How about that?
But
are you good at the duck calls?
I mean, I honestly, I don't. I just try to listen to what Willie and all those dudes from Duck Commander do on TV, and
right.
I mean, I'm obviously not as good at them. I just think I'm just out there playing around with it, and hopefully one will come to it. But usually my buddies are pretty good at it.
Sure.
But yeah, fishing, for me, it definitely is, the complete opposite, of my persona on the field and who I am on the field. But I'm still competitive at it. I mean, I compete in almost everything I do off the field, and sometimes I'm sitting there going, "Why are you competing? Like, why are you making this a competition?"
What else besides fishing do you compete in?
It could be anything. Me and you could be cleaning the house, and you said that I'm gonna clean the kitchen, and I say I'm gonna clean the bedroom. I'll be daggone if that kitchen's gonna be cleaner in my room. So
have you always been like that?
Yeah, I just compete at everything, and sometimes it hurts people's feelings. Why are you competing? I'm like, well, sorry, it's just who I am.
So you would never be the guy who gives out the participation trophies?
I don't believe in participation trophies. I don't even wear, and this isn't a knock to the ring or the team or anything like that. But I don't wear my Tax Slayer Bowl ring. I don't wear it. We got to a bowl game, and that was a stepping stone for this haven't been to a program. I've been to a bowl game in 5 years, but that was my first bowl game, and that was my first year. So we went there and we did all that, and we didn't win it. So I don't even wear it. I gave it to my mom and told her to put it in her safety deposit box.
Really?
So she has it, but I proudly wear that Citrus Bowl ring. I'll tell you that. I wear that thing around almost every chance I get. I'm making sure everybody sees that rock.
I mean, I know that makes you happy and everything, but it's certainly not satisfied. And we talked a little bit about expectations and everything. I mean, for people that haven't seen this team, and football guys I don't know if you agree with this or not, football guys are different. Oh, I mean, Calipari and those guys, they'll open practice up to everybody, but all these football coaches are afraid that somebody's going to get a formation or a look. So we haven't had a chance to see. So what have you seen from this team that excites you about this year?
The thing that excites me about this year is that, of the group of guys that we have, that everybody talked about, have all the great guys that we lost, and no disrespect to any of those guys out there that graduated, because they're obviously great players, all playing in the NFL. And but the fact that we have players that can step up and be just as good, if not better, than the guys that we just had.
Sure.
And we believe that, and that's how we work. And the work ethic that I've seen out of this group, not just my group, but the group before us, the group after us. You hear nothing but good things from Coach Ed and Coach Hill when you go and talk to them. And the way we prepare with somehow during the when the coaches would leave, I would organize almost like a players ran practice almost on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We would do individual drill for about 10-15 minutes. Then we come together and play 7-on-7, and that'd be it. And then for that to be able to see out of this team that they're willing to come in when they're not required to. Coach Stoops said Coach Stoops can't make us come in and do this. I'm saying, hey, we need to do this, because if both sides of the ball in those installs 1 through 5, by the time camp starts, we're 5 steps ahead. We're 5 steps ahead of where we would be. If then by that time we've already got the corrections out of the way in the summer.
Right.
That allows us to play faster, and if we play faster, we play a lot looser. When we play loose, we win ball games.
2 final things. What's the one thing you haven't done in life, football or otherwise, that you want to do?
Well, in football, I want to catch an interception. That'd be one thing I do in a college game before I graduate.
I can't remember. Have you had one and dropped it or anything like that?
I had that one against Middle Tennessee State.
That's right.
And I still, to this day, I think about it daily. I had that stupid thing on my hand
to cover the back of it. Yeah, the pad.
The clamshell, and it was hard, like right in the middle of my palm. And I was going for it like this, not thinking, oh, you have a hard surface in your hand. It might bounce. And I go to get it like a normal, like a football player would.
Yes.
Actually, I should have went up. You know what? I should have went up and got it near like a receiver would. On a
go to the nose of the football and all that.
Got it. But I tried to let it come, in the bread basket.
Yeah.
But the bread basket wasn't to receiving, and it bounced it right back out.
So it's actually Madaleno's fault. I mean, if he puts you in that thing, right? He's got to wear it, right?
I mean, Jim just doing his job of protecting my hands. So him and Dr. Johnson, did a great job, with that all year. So I can't put that on Jim. I have to put that on, on cash money for that one.
Is there anybody with less bedside manner than Dr. Johnson?
Me and Dr. Johnson, me and him get along.
I do too. I want to hear about this.
So easy, because we both can shoot the bull with each other in like a serious slash sarcastic way, where we both.
He's the most sarcastic man in the world.
We both get it, and it's hilarious. Me and Dr. Johnson, we have some good times, especially when he's shooting me up before games.
Oh, stop it! when I popped my Achilles, he convinced me to get an epidural so I could stay awake and watch him work. And so he says to me, you can go home as soon as you can walk on your crutches. And the surgery's over at like 11 a.m., and I'm sitting in a lazy boy at 7 p.m. thinking I ain't ever going to feel anything south of the border again. And every time I see him, I still, but he would want somebody to watch his work.
Absolutely, he would. He's a character, man.
Last thing, what would be the most surprising thing about you that people don't know?
That my persona on the field is the complete opposite off the field. I'm not the head banging psycho you see on the field, I guess is the best way to put it. And people I think I have this, like Stone Cold Steve Austin persona. I don't even drink, so that's one thing I don't do. And so I mean, what they see on the football field, like that's great, but that's not who I am and what I do off the field.
So you don't drink and you can still have a good time?
I don't really like to go out that much, but yeah.
I've got daughters on campus I'd like you to convey that to, if that's the case.
I can try.
Can I make you a consultant?
I can try, but I don't know if that might not work. But yeah, for me, I think that when I was younger, I did drink obviously and things like that, but I had when I was come to Jesus meeting with myself, I was like, well,
right.
What do you want to do with your life? You have this opportunity, that kids would kill for. What path you want to go down? You want to be all SEC in beer drinking, you want to be all SEC as a linebacker. And so a couple things had to go, a couple things had to change. One of them being alcohol was completely out of my diet. Another thing being getting a lot of good sleep, and just, staying well rested, with your mind and your body. And, that's helped me out a lot.
Dude, I know how much stuff you're going on. This has been about the most fun 30 minutes I've had in about 35 years around here. I really appreciate you taking time to do it.
This is my first podcast, man. So
really?
This is awesome. Hopefully one day I'll be on Joe Rogan and I'll mention how mean you.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Maybe Slacks would let us do it on a weekly basis. Could you imagine a Slacks podcast?
Okay, that'd be pretty funny.
Oh, that would be no holds barred right there.
Maybe I'll just mention it on Big Cat and PFT and on part of my
right, exactly. This is the Sports Buzz Podcast, a presentation of WKYT. You can get all of our podcasts at WKYT.com on iTunes, Audio Boom, and SoundCloud. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next time.